we try to synchronize flow and enable pull system. That is, everything happens based on the customer pull. And the objective is to eliminate waste and enhance. And we'll be having like flexible, we'll make the system more flexible and adaptable. And the focus is on how to utilize the workforce and the creative and innovative skills of the workforce. Thereby, continuous improvement will happen. So the focus of lean system is the Kaizen, is a Kaizen approach, continuous improvement. It's a part of it. That continuous improvement should happen through the creative and innovative thought of the workforce. That's the idea. And if you see the term waste, maybe now we will discuss initially from a manufacturing viewpoint, and also we will discuss in due course from the healthcare perspective also. There are 7 fundamental wastes being identified as per lean theory. So the term waste mean an entity that consumes resources but do not add value from the customer perspective. Like we have transportation, unnecessary transportation that happens without any productive action, unnecessary transportation of the entities, like maybe like in the context of manufacturing, like materials, sub-assemblies happens. Next comes the inventory, which is nothing but the stock of goods. Either it may be the raw material form, or maybe like in process or finished goods, and so on. Next comes motion, accounts for unwanted or unproductive movement of the workforce, which happens either in manufacturing or in service layouts, is referred motion waste. And so waiting or delay, which happens for several reasons. So that is also another important waste from service perspective. Overproduction, that is producing more than what is needed, part of it. Then additional processing or inappropriate processing. And we have defects, that is nothing but non-conformities, non-conformance to the customer requirements. These are the 7 fundamental wastes, like transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, defects. And apart from that, there are 2 other wastes being added. The 8th one being underutilization of creative and innovative thoughts of the workforce, because lean system relies on this. The creative and innovative skills are not being utilized, it becomes waste. And the 9th one is environmental waste. As a part of it, that is the pollutants or emissions that happens, part of it. So these are the 7+2 forms of waste that happens. And the focus of lean is to eliminate such wasteful process steps, and we'll be able to enhance the speed with the minimum utilization of capital. So as and when we try to reduce the cycle time of the process, we produce the product, or we render the service in line with the needs of the customers. So this concept of lean is basically a business philosophy which has the focus on continuous improvement of all process, irrespective of the type of products being manufactured or the kind of service being extended, part of it. And the term lean implies we try to enhance the speed by reducing the process time. Thereby, we'll be able to reduce cost and facilitate faster action in line with the customer's needs. So basically, lean tries to eliminate maybe which may require the excess work or utilize excess capacity or excess time and so on. Try to standardize and streamline the activities. Standardization, streamlining, sustenance is also very important, and it facilitates just-in-time deliveries and so on. And the system does not try to overburden the workforce, a part of it. So the workforce must be able to execute their task so that their creative and innovative skills also could be utilized. Okay. So if you see this basic elements of lean system. We have like 5 elements. We'll discuss in detail, like value from customer's perspective, and we identify the value stream wherein we will be able to identify all those activities which add value from customer perspective. We try to categorize value or not, and we try to make the value flow to happen continuously.
Sir, Vinodh, sir.
Sir,
Okay.
Sir, could you hear me?
Yes, sir. There was a small interruption, sir.
Sir, okay. Could you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please proceed. Proceed, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. So we start from customer value, then set the value stream, make the value flow happen continuously. Then we facilitate customer pull and perfection by continuous improvement. So this concept of lean needs clear understanding before adaptation. And in order to understand the lean system, we need to have an understanding on its elements, tools and techniques, and governing rules, and so on. So let us see those 5 elements as we have seen, like setting the customer value. So in this sense, here we focus on value from customer's perspective. That means we need to have a clear understanding on the customer requirements, whether it is manufacturing or service-oriented domain. Understanding the customer requirements is very essential because we need to translate the customer requirements into a product or service. And next, we need to set the value stream. There is a sequence of activities involved in transforming the kind of input into a usable output, maybe a product or it can be a service. So we need to identify those activities which add value and those do not add value and so on. Next comes value flow, wherein we try to make the flow perfect through the value stream without any bottlenecks. That means without any waiting, without any delay, without any inventory accumulation, and so on. Next, we transform the push system to pull system. So here in the pull system, it depends purely on the customer demand. We need to have an understanding on customer demand, and we need to produce or render service. Whereas that is totally contrast to the push system, whereas we'll try to produce and somehow or the other we try to sell and we try to provide service and so on. Next comes perfection by continuous improvement. So everything is a Kaizen approach, like continuous improvement has to be facilitated. Part of. So these are the 5 elements of a lean system. And here we need to have, as I mentioned, we need to have an understanding on the value from customer's perspective, because the customer pays money, in turn they want value for the money they pay. Either maybe a product or could be a service. And any entity which does not add value from customer perspective is a waste, and it has to be eliminated. So in this, on understanding the product value from customer perspective, the sequence of process from beginning to end has to be identified. The sequence of process, every stage where the cost is being incurred. So in turn, value is being created. Value is being created from customer perspective. It's called value stream. So such a stream we need to set, encompassing the various activities which add value. So in a typical value stream, there will be like 3 types of activities. First one being is adding value to the customer. CVA, the activities necessary for completing the process, which is called business value added activities, or necessary but non-value adding. And third, activities not adding value to the customer. It's called, we need to have a categorization of these 3 types of activities, like value adding, necessary but non-value adding, and non-value adding activities. So this customer value adding activities or the activities which add value from the customer perspective, and the customer will pay for them, because those are all the activities needed to fulfill the customer requirements. Without these activities, it is not possible to attain competitive advantage. These are value added or customer value added activities. Next comes business value added or necessary but non value adding. They are forcefully induced in the process, either because of the government regulations or because of the norms, the government norms, or without those processes, the business cycle cannot be completed. Say it can be some form of mandatory inspection for quality we do, or kind of a regulatory agency norm we try to comply. Those activities are business value adding. Some kind of inspection for quality check we do. Those activities do not add value, but they are essential for completion of the process. So such activities are called business value adding activities, or they are called necessary but non-value adding. Next comes non-value adding activities, or they are called waste. So they don't, those activities do not add value. So if we try to eliminate those activities, in no way it will affect the product performance or the product features. So here, our core objective is to eliminate the non-value adding activities, which are waste. So in a typical value stream from a lean perspective, we need to do a categorization of activities into value adding, business value adding, and non-value adding. And our ultimate objective will be to eliminate the non-value adding activities. First, to minimize and eliminate, and accordingly, the value addition percentage could be increased. Okay. So if it is in the context of waste from healthcare, for some of the statistics available in the literature, like 20 to 30% of the expenses, the healthcare is considered as waste in terms of providing the over treatment for patients, or maybe like failure to synchronize and coordinate care, or because of the administrative complexity, or some kind of a burdensome rules. Because of all these kind of factors, the kind of the contribution towards the waste is getting increased, and definitely the initiatives need to be taken in order to minimize those waste. Say for example, if you see among the different types of waste, much of the time gets wasted in waiting as a part of it. So we do have like different types of, if you see in the kind of an illustration being shown in the slide, and the proportion of value adding time is very less as a part of it. The proportion of non-value adding time or waste seems to be on the higher side. So typical care projects, from the perspective of lean implementation, a kind of a process stream or value stream analysis has to be done. And we need to find out those activities which add value and which do not add value, or some business value adding activities. So this kind of categorization of the activities will help us to identify where the bottlenecks are there. That means where more non-value adding activities are there as a part of it. Accordingly, the steps or initiatives could be taken to enhance the value addition percentage. This is another illustration taken from literature with reference to a test and rating cycle. And we could observe from this kind of an illustration, much of the time, the patient time gets wasted in terms of waiting and in terms of this motion waste and waiting waste all seems to be higher. And based on statistics, only though less than 20% of activities seems to be value adding, and roughly about 80% of activities goes as waste or non-value adding activity based on the statistics given in the literature. And definitely activities or initiatives need to be taken to minimize those waste. Fine. So if you say always we need to make a kind of a comparison between in lean, the convention to be followed is that we need to understand the present state, that is current stage, and we need to go to a desired or future state as a part of it. And definitely we need to make the comparison in terms of time, like cycle time, lead time, and so on. And cycle time is concerned with an individual process. Lead time is concerned with the transformation that happens in terms of receiving the requirement from customer and time being delivered. Or maybe in the context of service industry, the time the services get initiated and the time the activities gets over and as a part of it. That total elapsed time between all activities gets accounted as a part of lead. And definitely this kind of analysis has to be done in order to enhance quality and reduce the lead time. So as we discussed, this identifying the waste, the value stream is very, very essential as a part of it. And once we make this kind of a value stream with the core activities, wherein the kind of the service flow could be analyzed. So definitely the flow has to be perfect. The service flow across this service streams. In the sense, we need to minimize the bottlenecks across this service streams. Ultimately, the service performance or the service efficiency gets enhanced. Okay, so this kind of a service stream, maybe in the healthcare domain, they try to make this kind of a patient-based value stream, and which contains several actions as a part of it. Till they are being the moment they enter the healthcare unit and the moment they go out after getting diagnosed, after the healthcare process gets over. So the complete activities have to be monitored and have to be analyzed from the viewpoint of parameters in terms of time, in terms of inventory, and so on. It's part of it. And accordingly, such analysis of the value streams is essential. From a current stage, presently, how the value stream is and how the implement activities have to be focused. So now, having discussed some of the insights with regard to lean concepts, the fundamental concepts, and we had seen some insights with regard to the healthcare domain. Now let us spend some few minutes towards discussing the concept of Six Sigma. But before I move to Six Sigma, so are there any queries from participants at this stage? Okay, you can unmute and you can ask if there are any queries. Are there any queries from the attendees?
Any you want to interact with him? Anything on the content that he delivered now? Okay, if you have anything, please send it through chat box. Sir, you may proceed.
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir. I am proceeding, sir. Yeah. Next, we shall spend some few minutes with regard to Six Sigma approach with regard to the healthcare domain. We will just have an introductory aspect to Six Sigma. So as we discussed the lean, it's the approach which is focused on elimination of waste, and whereas Six Sigma is a defect reduction approach. And ultimately, both are process excellence methodologies, part of it. The Six Sigma concept originated from Motorola industry, which implies the defect rate of the order of 3.4 over 1 million, which ultimately implies it's a kind of a zero defect manufacturing strategy. And Six Sigma is a business philosophy that responds to the customer's demand in order to ensure high quality and defect-free business process. It was the concept originated from the Motorola Industries, and for this the contribution towards the evolution of Six Sigma concepts, Motorola was awarded the highly recognized Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. And basically, Six Sigma is done as projects, and it's based on DMAC approach, which states the acronym states define, measure, analyze, improve, control. So if you look at the mathematical analogy behind Six Sigma, as we could see the process variability starting from a 2 sigma to 6 sigma, we can see the kind of quality control action. The 2 sigma process has heavy process control, and the process capabilities of the order of 0.67. And when moving across towards the 3 sigma process, let's say level of 1, which needs heavy process control. And if we see the level of 6 sigma, it needs a high process capability of the order of 2, and the it has reduced the strategies for quality control and so on, part of it. So the meaning of process capability is it is the ratio of design width to process width. That is the difference between the specification limits to the ratio of the difference between the control limits as a part of it. The vision of most of the industries, maybe either from manufacturing or from service industries, their vision is to move towards Six Sigma process. Maybe they may be operating at the level of 1.5 or 2.5 Sigma, and ultimately they need to move towards Six Sigma, for which they need to quantify their quality performance, and they need to do this kind of process capability studies as well. So this slide depicts the Sigma level of the process, the corresponding defect rate, and the competitive level. Maybe 3 Sigma is an industry average. Maybe the defect rate is of the order of 66,807 parts per million defects. And moving ahead and towards the high quality performance is of the order of 6 Sigma, where the defect rate is 3.4 parts per million defects, and it is a world-class strategy, part of it. And this shows the kind of the high level of quality that is attained through the Six Sigma. So definitely this kind of numerical analysis, quantification of quality performance is very essential as part of it. And if you see this kind of a Six Sigma implementation, normally it's a kind of a 5-phase process where we start with the management commitment and try to bring about the involvement of employees. Then we proceed with information gathering, though the detailed, very essential. And we go ahead with the kind of training of the workforce as a part of the adoption. And we develop the appropriate monitoring systems, monitoring mechanisms. Then we select the business process, the pilot process for the implementation. We conduct the Six Sigma projects through this DMAC approach, define, measure, analyze, improve, control. And it's a continuous improvement journey. It's a Kaizen approach. It's part of it. So now we could see this 3 dimensions of the Six Sigma, where we have organization dimension is focused on the senior management commitment, and we need to have a quality team and the understanding the customer needs. From methodological perspective, the DMAC, DMAIC, and from tools perspective, we may go for a process mapping. We may plot the regression charts, Pareto charts, analyze the process variations, specification limits, and so on. And this is a typical cycle of DMAIC, where we try to define the business process, define the data to be collected, and we set the goals, set the project charter. During measure phase, we complete data collection and through the appropriate approaches, and we try to set the baseline measures, and then we go ahead with the kind of analysis phase, wherein we may try to use the appropriate tools for analyzing the reason for the occurrence of the problem and so on. Then we go for the improvement phase, when we'll be able to improve the business process, and ultimately we go for the control strategies and so on. And it's an ongoing cycle, continuous cycle, as I mentioned. So with regard to quality team, if you see from a Six Sigma perspective, we have about 3 levels of teams. One is green belts, next comes black belt, and third one is the master black belts. So the green belts, they are at the first level for dealing with the less complex projects in their functional area of expertise. Next comes black belt, where they'll be able to mentor the green belts and they can handle some relatively high risk projects. Next comes master black belt. They have very good leadership on implementing the Six Sigma, and they'll be able to mentor the green belts and black belts. This is a kind of a training scheme we have with regard to Six Sigma. Then the scope of Six Sigma starts from manufacturing industries and service industries, healthcare units, insurance companies, call centers, food industries, and so on. It is having diversified application in manufacturing and service industries. And as we have seen, this Six Sigma strategy started with the Motorola Corporation, where the focus is on 3.4 defects per million opportunities. And it is based on quantitative analysis of the quality performance. And as we have seen this based on the DMAC approach, where in the DMAC define phase, we will identify the customers, we'll understand the customer requirements, the process capabilities, and we'll set the goals and baseline measures. Then in measure phase, we'll be able to measure all relevant quality characteristics concerned with the customer satisfaction and product performance and provide the data metrics. Next comes the analysis phase, where we try to use different analysis tools like Pareto chart, maybe like the cause and effect diagram, statistical process control, and so on. Next, in improve phase, we'll be able to identify the design and process modifications, and we'll be arriving at the improvement actions. We'll plan for the deployment of improvement actions. Then in the control phase, we'll be able to use the different tools like control charts and other sustainability plans in order to control the metrics and also to proceed with the sustainability aspects. So there are different levels of challenges that comes from the viewpoint of Six Sigma implementation in healthcare industry. So here, the challenge in terms of adoption of Six Sigma approach to the healthcare domain is to explore the way to leverage data from Six Sigma in order to enable the human behavior. So here, there are 4 key metrics we need to focus as a part of the Six Sigma adoption to the healthcare industries, like service level, service cost, customer satisfaction, and clinical excellence as a part of it. These are the 4 key performance metrics we need to consider on deploying a Six Sigma approach to the healthcare industry. And the patient satisfaction in the context of healthcare industry is a key aspect we need to consider, because normally in healthcare units, the customers are the patients, and the level of patient satisfaction is considered as a top priority part of it. And quality is a key parameter which is having a vital role where the healthcare service providers have been experiencing the approaches, and they are adopting different approaches in order to enhance the quality of the service being provided. And with regard to patient satisfaction, there are 3 approaches to quality improvement in the healthcare perspective, like measuring from a patient's perspective and enhancing patient outcomes, and the adoption of Six Sigma approach as a part of it, where it has to be coupled with the senior management commitment and workforce involvement and so on. Okay. So here, this from a patient perspective, the measurement have to be done in terms of understanding and determining the patient's preferences. Then we need to have appropriate approach for evaluation of the services being received by the patients. And next, we need to develop the reports of the observations from a patient perspective in terms of analysis of the healthcare process, waiting, or the extent of service being rendered, and so on. So here, the Six Sigma approach, when we deploy to healthcare quality improvement, so we need to have a clear definition of the goal and scope of the project, whether we have to enhance patient satisfaction or to reduce the average patient waiting time. And then we need to create a baseline performance, keeping the control limits, upper control limits and lower control limits, an average level of the performance indicator of patient satisfaction based on the classical theory with regard to normal distribution and so on. Then we need to monitor the performance and collect the performance related data using patient satisfaction survey and waiting time and so on. Then if we arrive at an inference where the level of performance goes below the threshold, then we need to analyze the root cause of a problem, wherein we have to take the tools like cause and effect diagram or Pareto chart and so on. Then we need to implement the procedures based on the root cause analysis. And on deployment of the procedures, we need to evaluate the performance before and after implementation as part of it. So this is the kind of an approach normally the industries, in the healthcare industry, they adopt in order to deploy a Six Sigma projects. Fine. So Six Sigma can facilitate the optimization of scheduling of time for testing equipment and the resources being used to operate those equipments, maybe with regard to scanning equipments and so on. And also here we can focus on developing and designing the new hospital facilities. Maybe the facility layout, the service layout of a healthcare unit can be better developed. Okay, considering the location of various entities and the kind of the transportation and the movement that happens across the layout of the healthcare industry could be very well analyzed. And also the patient voice of customer study may be carried out. And first kind of quality and productivity improvement studies, as we do in manufacturing, in healthcare industries also as a part of it. Fine. So now, having discussed about the lean concepts and Six Sigma concepts, and also the kind of insights in the for the healthcare domain, now let me spend some time on discussing the significance of Lean Six Sigma. As Lean is a strategy which focuses on waste elimination, and Six Sigma is a defect reduction strategy. When both these strategies are being integrated, like Lean Six Sigma, it's an business process excellence approach. It's a part of it, and this integrated approach is already essential. It's a part of it. So if we look at the kind of healthcare units, why they strive for process excellence is to enhance the process efficiency, to improvise customer experiences. They need to empower employees, authorize workforce, and they have to fix or deal with the kind of the broken process, maybe from quality or from the service and other aspects. So care needs to be taken from these aspects. And as we have discussed the concept of Six Sigma, which originated from the Motorola, and it had been deployed further with allied in another group of industries. The need for deploying Six Sigma in healthcare industry also being, and it's a kind of a process improvement approach which tries to minimize the variations and continuously improve the kind of an outcome, maybe a product or service being rendered. So the it analyzes the variations very perfectly using the mathematical theories. Okay. So as the focus of Lean is to facilitate the streamlined process and to eliminate waste, improve value from customer perspective. The idea is that we need to do the right activities, the right time, the first time. That means the analogy behind Lean is to do the activities right the first time as a part of it. That's more important. First time right, we call as a part of it, in order to enhance the flow, the value stream, and eliminate waste. Okay. So if you see the kind of the integrated approach of Lean and Six Sigma. So Lean enhances process efficiency, whereas Six Sigma enhances effectiveness, process effectiveness. Lean tries to reduce the number of steps in the process, whereas Six Sigma reduces the variability, process variations and variability. Lean reduces waste with a lesser effort, whereas Six Sigma aims at hitting the target, aiming at the target all the time. Lean is concerned with this timeliness, reducing non-value adding activities, enhancing productivity, and whereas Six Sigma deals with the accuracy or precision and reduce the defects or the non-conformities as a part of it. In this context, this integrated approach of Lean Six Sigma is very essential for healthcare domain. And if you see the kind of the role played by different healthcare units in terms of their stakeholders, so they have like consumers, then they do have providers, they do have contractors in terms of dealing with the contract activities, they have the management, and they do have outsourcing units and buyers and so on. So there are different stakeholders and different interfaces through which this routine interaction happens. So if you see the kind of the customer requirements in terms of healthcare, like the safety goals and the healthcare outcomes, the compliance rates, operational efficiency improvement, enhancing the supply chain laboratories, pharmacy units, and quality service level improvement, and stakeholder satisfaction in terms of patients, in terms of the workforce involved, maybe the kind of the healthcare experts, and so on. And this implementation strategy in the context of Lean or Lean Six Sigma, as we focus on ensuring the top management commitment, and in terms of communicating the deployment of strategy very clearly to all the stakeholders, and they have to emphasize the quality culture through appropriate communication, and they have to establish the data-driven implement approaches, improvement methods, and an appropriate training strategy is very, very essential as a part of it. Like we have like green belt, black belt, and master black belt likewise. And the identifying the training curriculum, setting the training curriculum, training duration is also very, very essential, because they have different levels of the stakeholders, and they have to provide training for all their workforce in a very meticulous way. It's part of it. And they need to take the help from the kind of consultants. They have to establish the kind of coordinate with the centers of excellence in terms of their deployment. Fine. So now I'll spend a few minutes towards presenting the research studies. So let me try my best. Having discussed about the concept of Lean Six Sigma and Lean Six Sigma, to the fundamental concepts and the kind of insights to the healthcare units. So I'll be focusing now on the research studies, where in the first study, we modeled and deployed the Lean concepts to the healthcare sector. So directly, let me proceed to the study as a part of it for the sake of time. So here the objectives we have is to a structural model which can clearly depict the interrelations among the factors influencing Lean deployment in healthcare domain. And we statistically validated the influence of Lean practices, and we deployed the Lean tools in the identified healthcare unit. So this is the methodology we followed as a part of it. We applied in this research study the total interpretive structural modeling, which is a structural modeling approach which is used to analyze the kind of interactions that exist between the various factors as a part of it. So in this study, we had like 20 factors like risk management, time management, patient satisfaction, and the standard operating procedures, hospital layout. Likewise, 20 factors we identified through the literature review and expert opinion. And step by step, we went ahead with the computation, forming a structural self-interaction matrix from the inputs being derived from the healthcare experts, and a binary decoding of the inputs, and further proceeding with doing the transitivity check and level partitioning and so on. And ultimately, we developed a kind of a diagram which clearly shows us the priority of the different factors. Say the top management support and commitment is very essential. Then the training.
Sir,
so that it facilitated us to deploy those factors more effectively with regard to the healthcare unit. Next, we did the MICMAC analysis, wherein we categorized into 4 domains like autonomous, driving, dependent, linkage, and so on. So this slide shows the kind of the depiction of the factors across these 4 quadrants as a part of it. So we'll be able to find out which factor driving and dependence power and so on as a part of it. So we could understand that the factors having more driving and dependence power, and the factors having strong driving power and but weak. Next, we went ahead with the structural equation modeling in order to validate the kind of the Lean performance improvement connected with the different dimensions like management, people, process, technology, and how they are being connected with the Lean performance. We statistically validated. So we identified like different constructs starting from management, people, process, technology, and performance. And then we went ahead with the kind of structured survey approach among the healthcare practitioners. and we went for the structural equation modeling. We went ahead with a partial least square approach, and accordingly we modeled the factors, the sub-factors, and the statistical model had been developed, and the model had been solved further and checked for all statistical parameters, and accordingly we could find the management is the factor is gaining much importance in terms of it significantly influences people, process, technology, and other resources. And also the people, process, and technology have very good influence in the deployment of lean practices. So this study factors have very good influence over improving the lean performance. Next, I would like to spend few minutes. I hope I have another 5 minutes. Okay, so we did 5 years auditing, wherein the purpose of 5 years auditing is to find out to what extent the elements from viewpoint of organized healthcare environment, from viewpoint of sorting, we had a set of questions and we arrived at the responses. And next, setting in order an organized way of doing various activities as a part of it. Then to have a clean environment, CHIAN. Next for standardization. Next for sustenance and so on. This 5 years audit helped us to find out what is the total score presently and what kind of improvement actions are being taken. This kind of a radar chart shows very systematically the total score and the distribution of the score obtained in this case. And we went ahead with the implementation. We did some caissons. Say, for example, we developed shadow boards for positioning the surgical instruments, so which facilitated safe and convenient handling of the instruments. Next, we went for this color coding with regard to managing the medical stationary inventories and so on. Next, the tracing board, where the information which will help the different stakeholders in a healthcare unit had been done, so that it acted as an information management system as a part of it. Next, we went ahead with this kind of switch stickers and so on to identify the positioning of the switches in the healthcare units. Next, to the kind of the mop sticks being used, the color codes. Then we developed a value stream map, a kind of how from the input side to the output, how the kind of the customer service activities are being done. The lead time had been found. Actions are being suggested in terms of developing shadow boards, better sanitary facilities, better inventory management, efficient resource sharing, and so on. Thereby, the average inpatient flow had been analyzed, and the average lead time had been found, and the takt time also had been found as a part of it. And accordingly, the improvement actions are being deployed. And also, we have simulated the entire map as a part of it, and we found the parameters. Then we could find the reduction in the cycle time, the improvement in terms of space utilization, streamlining the process, and so on as a part of it. So this study helped us to identify the important factors, the structural model for analysis of the factors. Then we developed a statistical model, and we went ahead with the implementation of lean tools like value stream mapping, caissons, and so on. And also we did the 5 years auditing as a part of it. Fine. So this is this marks the end of my presentation. And now I'll be happy to respond to the queries. And I focused on discussing on the lean concepts, Six Sigma concepts and Lean Six Sigma concepts, their relevance to the healthcare domain, and also I have shown a research study wherein how we modeled and deployed the lean concepts in the healthcare domain. I'll be happy to answer to the queries. We have few minutes. I think I'll be respond to the queries. You may unmute and they may ask the queries. Any queries from attendees? You may feel free to ask any questions related to my presentation or generally with regard to research. So now also we have time as well at after Prasanna sir's presentation also we have time either related to our presentation or anything related to the general research methods. You can feel free to interact with us.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, madam.
Sir, am I audible? Yes, sir.
You're audible.
This is Bhatia, research scholar from Department of Computer Applications at NIT, sir. Actually,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
had a query. Apart from the patient waiting time, is there any
ma'am.
other relevant considerable focused area for considering this Six Sigma strategy and Lean Sigma strategies? So apart from this
Yes, madam.
patient waiting time.
Yes, ma'am. It's a good question, and we can try to handle take into consideration the inventory also, ma'am, across the kind of the value streams or the inventory is also another important parameter, and also we can take into consideration the non-conformities also.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Any further questions? Fine, if there are no other questions before handing over to Prasanna sir. So I would like to, anyway, we are available. Okay, so we'll be discussing after Prasanna sir's presentation also. Any queries, you can feel free to contact us. Okay, thank you as of now, and I am handing over the session to Prasanna sir.
Sir, thank you, sir. We'll have a short break, 10 minutes, and by 8 o'clock I will start. Thank you. Thank you.
Fine, sir. Fine, sir.